It's time for the Movie Raid movie review. And tonight I'm going to talk about George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. And I want to start with the whole story itself. Now, I love the story. I love that it's a survival horror film. And now, if you've seen Night of the Living Dead, you know what I'm talking about, And here the story starts out that it's already chaos. People don't know what's going on, but they do know that people are eating people. People are being dead. And people who are already dead are eating the living and so forth and so forth. And, people are just getting killed left and right and da-da-da. And so it takes place in a broadcast station. And here we see these, the introduction of some of the characters that's within the station. And, they're trying to broadcast, make sure everybody's well informed and stay informed and so forth. But in reality, a lot of the stations that are broadcasted are no longer active. There are a lot of people that have either abandoned the post or just no longer active, and whatever the case may be, that's what happened. And so one of the main characters shuts down all these stations and whatnot that are being broadcasted that shouldn't be up on the screen and whatnot. So I love the fact that there's another kind of war going on at the same time. So we also see SWAT team members, raiding this building full of, foreigner domestics. And, we see one of the SWAT team members is a hardcore racist, by the way, and very discriminatory on the aspect. But we see that in the movie. We see what happens to him. If you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen this movie, you really, really should see this movie. So anyway, the scene, we see that all this chaos is going on. The SWAT team people are trying to get the innocent people out of the building. And at the same time, we see other foreign domestics, attacking SWAT team people. And they're getting killed and vice versa. But we also see the undead in the whole middle of this, and no one is exactly paying attention to the whole situation. And some of these people, are responding to what's going on in this building as well. But all this is going on at the exact same time. People are getting killed by other people. You got the foreign domestics. You got the raid that's going on with the SWATs, and a lot's going on within this one scene. And we see the brutality of zombies. What's going on with the whole ordeal, and we see the introduction of the SWAT team members as well, and they basically catch a ride with the remaining characters and so forth, and they're just trying to get out of Dodge. And we see that here it's not as easy as it seems, and they get in some trouble. They get into a couple of scuffs with some zombies and so forth, and until they see this mall, right? And the mall being like this main thing, the main focal of this whole story, that here's something like a crown jewel just out of nowhere. Just nobody has taken it or anything like that. But it's also the first mall, or at least one of the first malls ever to be introduced in real time in this actual era when this film was made. Which is amazing too, that either this mall specifically, either this mall was the first mall, or at least one of the few chains of these malls that was actually introduced, because there weren't that many malls per se. At least the word mall was even implicated on. So this makes it even more interesting as far as a playground between zombies and humans. And we see that how these characters are adapting to what they find and trying to figure out what's going on, how to do this, how to do that. And I think that is a great stage setup for this, as far as the drama, as far as suspense and horror, all at once. And as far as characters go, great casting. I love when we are introduced with not as majorly faced actors per se. Now, obviously, you're going to recognize Kim Fourier. Obviously, you're going to recognize a few others that might have been introduced. Like, you got Tom Savini being in this film. Obviously, Tom Savini. And I also want to point out that Marty Schiff is in this film, also in Creepshow, and half a dozen upon dozens of other projects since then. But in this time frame, what I love about this is the time era that it's filmed in. This was filmed in its actual own time. This was not a invented time. Like, this wasn't filmed in 2022, making it look like from 1978, 1950. This is actual from the actual time era itself, and how the clothes were done and all that stuff. And I just absolutely love it. I mean, I love time period type of films like that, whether it's filmed in the 80s, 70s, 60s, and so forth. I mean, I just absolutely love it because it's authentic, and that's what makes this film so authentic. And I will talk about the special effects. Now, the special effects, with Tom Savini's help and his crew, I think it's an amazing job for what they made. Now, I know we obviously know that George Romero loved the blood, but Tom Savini did not like the blood in this because it looked too cartoony. But George said, yeah, well, it may be cartoony, but it works, and it does work. I have no problems as far as the blood, but the gore, fantastic. And I want to also to mention that the zombies look like actual people. Like, these were actual people. The mechanics of zombies in this film, like exactly what the line was said in the film by what the character saying that, they know we're here, and Kim Fourier's character says, well, they're after the place. They just know they want to be here. It's an important place, as Flyboy say. It's an important place to them, and it's true because these zombies have fractions of memories. So they feel they have to be there. They feel like they're in a loop in a way, but at the same time, they're very, very, very dangerous, And here they are, they feel like, these humans, these, people that they want to, come in and take out as well, but also taking back what's theirs. So we constantly see these zombies always surrounding this entire mall, the whole film. And I just, again, back to the gore effect of this. I love the special effects. I love how, Roger, how he gets hurt several times. Flyboy gets hurt several times. And we don't have really, any heroes in this film. It's all survive. It's all survival based. It's nothing but survivors. There's no heroics. There's no, drama per se. Having to, have these long pauses or anything. No, this is like straight up in your face. We see that these characters take a break from, whatever it is they have to deal with on the way to wherever. They stop at this mall, and, they keep track on what's going on with the news when it's on and so forth. And then they just treat the place as their own for a while, as we see. And then, of course, the bikers in this film, and again, another set of characters, which, again, I love the fact that here's another set of whole new threats going on involved with this whole thing. You don't got zombies to deal with. You got to deal with these bikers, too. And there's an army of them. And they're looters, and they're pillagers, and killers, and convicts, and everything that you probably can think of. These all, live out this whole ordeal. And it's kind of funny because you think that the rednecks that we see in the film would make some kind of a prominent shadow in this film, but no, that's not the case at all. But we see that this is nothing but survival. That there's no special sugarcoating on any of these characters. They all are kind of their own. You got Flyboy, who is with his wants to be with his hopefully soon to be wife, right? Pregnant wife. And who also works at the station and so forth. And you got two SWAT team members who have never actually met until that incident with one of the other SWAT team members. And they, became friends and, became, as a team. And those guys were the strong point of this whole thing, because you have Flyboy and the woman also not exactly the strong characters, because Flyboy is not the strong character. Now, he's a little bit smart because he's the one that found, let's say, the map to root out, where to go in the mall, which he took it upon himself, goes to the boiler room, and, obviously he gets in danger, but he does find the map and the keys and everything else. Well, not the keys, but Roger found the keys, but he finds, a lot of other useful things about, what to do in the mall and so forth. But this overall is a great movie. Lots of action, lots of horror. Like I said, the zombies look like actual people. I love the fact that if somebody, during a crisis like this, where nobody knows what's going on, nobody knows how it happens, don't know when it happens, where it happened, and so forth. We just know that there are people eating other people, but we see that, the injuries that some of these people have gotten to them. We see that they probably all died from sickness for whatever reasons in process of this virus throughout the course of this movie. And because we see people, ordinary people, we see nuns, we see nurses, we see people from a baseball game. One zombie's from a baseball game. We see all kinds of zombies in this film. And again, that's another appreciation that the way it was shot is like how many people is over here and how many people is over here. And how many, do we, have to fixate on this and the kills and so forth. It's not just fixate on the main characters throughout the whole duration of this movie per se. We see them chilling out. We see them, shopping. We see them doing ordinary things that anybody else would during this whole crisis that's going on. And let me talk about the soundtrack. The soundtrack, again, it's also a really good soundtrack for this, man. Orange Goblin originally for this soundtrack was... I love it. I love the creepiness to it. I love that it has a lightness to it. I love, I just love it in general. It's a really good soundtrack. And bottom line is, out of a 10 on a ranking of a 10, I'm going to give it a perfect 10 because it is exactly what you would expect. It's horror. It's survival. It's unpredictable. If you were to see this for the first time, you're not going to automatically know who's really going to survive. I mean, you might get the idea that you might say, oh, well, he'll survive. He's a good guy. No, that's not the case because it's not exactly predictable per se, unless you were comparing to other things as far as zombie-related topics in other films. But in this case, no, man, this is a great film. And George Romero, who exactly what he sought out to do, and not only that, this was filmed on location, and that's one of my favorite things about a lot. When someone films on real locations like this, it makes it so authentic and it makes it so unique and puts the characters in there, puts them in play. It's just great. I can't say really anything negative about this film. I really can't. It's definitely one of my favorites next to Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead is a true, one of my absolute favorite films. I can't separate between Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, to be honest. And honestly, if you were to say this is a sequel, even though it's not a sequel per se, not even the word sequel as far as Dawn of the Dead goes, you could pretend it could be a sequel because if you were to follow Night of the Living Dead of what happened then, and you kind of fast forward time a little bit, this is what happened in this part of the country. This is what happened, like in Day of the Dead. This is what happens over here. It doesn't follow between what happened to these people and they move on to the next. No, this is an ongoing thing, and I love it. I absolutely love the continuation with George Romero's zombie films and how they adapt and how a zombie is supposed to be, between half human and half zombie and so forth. If you were to watch Land of the Dead, for example, you would see, the behavior and mechanics of how a zombie and how they have still being human, but still being very much dead at the same time. But that's another topic to discuss. But definitely a 10 out of 10 for Dawn of the Dead.